Hi, I'm Rich with Loft Labs. Recently, I did a video introducing our open source virtual cluster tool for Kubernetes called vCluster, which lets you run a virtual cluster entirely within a namespace of your host cluster. During the video, I mentioned that you can actually run a vCluster inside of a vCluster, and I thought I'd show you how this vCluster Inception works. Let's get to a shell and have a look. Here's level 1, my host cluster. First, I'll start up an Nginx deployment with a single pod in the host cluster. Okay, we now have a single Nginx pod running. Now, let's drop down to level 2 and create our first vCluster. vClusters are deployed using Helm. Our vCluster is running in a namespace on the host cluster called level 2. In that namespace, you can see the vCluster pod running. vCluster uses K3s under the hood, so there's a full-blown API server running in that pod. Let's connect to the vCluster. vCluster Connect sets up port forwarding. We'll leave that running and open a new shell. vCluster Connect also creates a kubeconfig file that points at the virtual cluster. Let's point our local kubectl at that kubeconfig, and then look at the namespaces. We don't see the level 2 namespace that was created in the host cluster. Our virtual cluster is running entirely inside of that namespace. We don't see the Nginx deployment that's running in the host cluster either. Let's create an Nginx deployment with 2 replicas here at level 2. Okay, now for the real Inception action. Let's create a vCluster inside of our vCluster. And then connect to it. We have to use the level 2 kubeconfig and specify a different local port for port forwarding. We'll open one more tab for level 3 and use its kubeconfig. Let's make an Nginx deployment here with 3 replicas. And we only see the 3 Nginx pods. Let's take a look at our host cluster again. We'll switch to that kubeconfig. Here we see the Nginx deployment from our host cluster and the 2 virtual clusters. How does this all work? Each vCluster has an API server inside of it, but it doesn't have a scheduler, so the pods are synced to the host cluster and run there. And that's a quick look at vCluster Inception. You might not have a use case for running nested vClusters, but maybe you do. You could assign each developer at your company a namespace with a vCluster running and allow them to create additional vClusters inside of it. Either way, it's great to know that to the person using a virtual cluster, it looks like a real Kubernetes cluster. To learn more about vCluster, go to vCluster.com or have a look at the code at github.com/loft-sh/vCluster. Thanks for watching.